Hello, I'm Dr. Terry James Gingrass, and this is Dr. G's ADHD Chat, show trying to make the world safe for ADHDers. As I tell you every week, I'm a clinical psychologist and neuropsychologist. I have two kids, and I married into an ADHD family. I have two kids with ADHD. Okay, so, and back in those days when we were having young kids, ADHD wasn't even a diagnosis. So we didn't have a lot of research. We didn't have a lot of people who were familiar with the disorder to try to help us. So we had to learn it ourselves. We is me and my wife, and we had to had to fake it and make it, and probably made way more mistakes than we needed to. And so I'm trying to do this show so you all don't have the same problems. And last week we talked about temper tantrums and what to do once they were already fully ignited, if you will. Um, and just, it's always easier to deal with it if you can prevent it rather than wait until it's all blown up and they're throwing stuff all over the place and kicking and all the things that they do when they're out of control. And again, the main thing, if you want to prevent them, as an ADHD parent, I have one kid who absolutely no problem as with ADHD, and the other two were, one was an inattentive type, and so that wasn't a huge deal um, till she got to be a late adolescent, and then it got a little tricky. And then, but then the other one was overtly hyperactive, and so I learned a lot about that. But the big deal with all of this stuff is, when you just have a normal typical kid, you just wait until something's out of the ordinary before you start really paying attention. If you're like most people, I got this work I got to do, for the boss and that kind of thing. So the kids, they, as long as they're nice and quiet and not yelling and screaming and bleeding or anything like that, you can, it's safe to kind of ignore them. Not so with an ADHD child. With an ADHD child, if they're not making a lot of noise, you wonder what they're doing. When they're in pretty good mood, you still need to be paying attention, because what you want to do is you want to get really good at observing your ADHD's behavior and moods. Behavior and moods, think, feel, do. And you watch the behavior, you watch what they're doing, you try to gauge their emotion, and you try to put it into a pattern of what you see. And under the guise of, if you don't measure it, you can't control it, you really need to observe and just kind of, oh, he's pretty calm today, right now. Oh, we're getting close to, we're going to have a blow up or something. It's not going to take much else to tick him off enough or frustrate him enough that we're going to have an outright explosion. So you actually, there's a school of psychology called behavior modification, and that's basically the way people train their pets. But the deal with it is that you have to be a good observer. You have to pay attention. You have to figure out your own. You can figure out a rating system in a heartbeat. It doesn't matter. Like emotional overload can be a 0 to 10 scale. So you just, oops, he's at a 3. That's pretty good. Oops, he came home from school in a bad mood. So he's at a 6 or a 7. And you start just kind of doing that periodically throughout the day. Then that makes it possible for you to notice when things are more likely. And also, you obviously you want to track temper tantrums. You want to know how often they happen, when they happen, what time of day. Is it always when he gets back home from school? Um, is it always just on the weekend? Just, you have to know the timing of it. Is there a pattern? Can you see a pattern? Or is the pattern all going to be dependent on something else, like, how tough the teacher was that day, or, some other deal like that that you have to know about. So that it gives you a heads up. That means you can know that things are likely to get uncomfortable pretty soon. So, and you can make some moves then. And basically, that comes the other part that a ADHD parent has to do, be good at, is teaching. Okay, so we've got three things. You got to observe, you got to monitor and record, and then you've got to teach. And one of the things you need to teach is what the rules are, and make the rules very clear, make them real short, and also you want to periodically, teach your kid about what your expectations are, what you're hoping for, that sort of thing. And the next thing you need to teach is emotional regulation. Okay, emotional regulation. It's first of all, kids have to know that they have control over their emotions. They don't Emotions don't just drop from the sky and you have to put up with them. Emotions are determined by the way you're evaluating a situation. And a lot of times for an ADHDer, they're looking at the situation as, I can't do anything. This is horrible. I can't get away from this. And that's when there's going to be an explosion because the situation, I can't do anything about it. I can't keep up. I can't do what the other kids can do. Something like that is likely going on. So when you're teaching emotional regulation, you're teaching them, okay, things happen in your life. Some things you like, some things you don't like, but there's nothing that happens that you can't get through if you just stay cool, stay calm, and deal with it a little bit at a time. And that's another secret. They have to learn to break things down into small steps. ADHDers tend to look at everything, teacher wants a paper done in 3 months, and they're, oh my God, and they're overwhelmed. But if they break it down into different steps, small, 15, 20-minute tasks. I need to Google this information. I need to, AI nowadays, I need to get whatever AI help I need. I need to get all this stuff together. And, 1 week I'm doing one thing, next week I'm doing the next thing, thinking I'm doing the one after that, or, whatever. It depends on your timeline, of course. If the due date is in 3 months, you've got lots of time, but you need to you do a little bit every week. And by the end of, the time period, you'll have it done. And, it doesn't do you any good to get all hyped up. Just plan ahead and go. The emotional regulation part of things is when you start feeling it, recognize that you're starting to have one of your favorite bad emotions. People have a tendency to have the same bad emotion over and over again. Some people are prone to being anxious. Some people are prone to being depressed. Some people are prone to being angry. Some people are prone to feel guilty. But given any given situation, they're likely to have that feeling every time. So the situation is no longer determining the exact emotional response they're going to have. It's what's going on in their head, how they're evaluating things that determined what emotion they're going to have. And ADHDers, like, once a week I'd slip this in. 70 critical comments every single day. So they're spring loaded. They're very sensitive to criticism. They're very sensitive to thinking they did something wrong, or they're going to be punished, or they're going to be yelled at, uh, all those sorts of things. So you, first of all, you don't want to do any of those things, yelling, screaming, all that stuff. But you want them to recognize that they have some control over how they react emotionally. And it's not just because, you know, Billy's a poopy head or something like that. It's, because the way you evaluate the things, and so that's on you. You could just ignore Billy, but you choose not to. You should, and da 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 da. So you have to teach emotional regulation and in those ways. And you also need to have some kind of calming techniques that you train. Okay, I think I've talked about this a few times before, but the easiest calming thing to do is just to do. Actually, the easiest one is four square. Which you inhale for a count of four, you hold it for a count of four, you exhale for a count of four, then you inhale for a count of four. Oh no, I'm sorry. You pause for a count of four, then you inhale for a count of four. Yeah, it's easy. So here I am screwing it up. You want they're going to breathe. Everybody knows how, and it will work eventually. It is a little bit tricky because it takes more concentration especially when you first start. There are, some other things you could do is just tighten up as many muscles as you can, just and squeeze, 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 and then let go. And that has a tendency to calm you down. Ideally, that's not the ideal way, but something they do that helps them calm down emotionally, and it can be doing a few push-ups. It's not that specific, but you just want them to feel like they have some control over their emotions. Okay, and like I said before, then this is become a behaviorist. Observe the patterns of behavior that are likely to lead to tantrums, and intervene early. Okay. Then we also talked last week about a safe room. It depends on your house, but if you've got it, fine. You've got a lot of soft furniture, cushions, things like that they can't hurt themselves on. If they just go flying into the room and throw themselves on the sofa and they hit a wooden arm on the chair, that's not going to be good. So you want, some room that's pretty, if you've got the space, a safe room, that quiet room where they can go and pet the dog and calm themselves down. That's real important. Your household, your routines. Well, there first of all, there need to be routines. You need to have things consistent. Change is not a friend of ADHDers, especially the younger they are. They need to know when the meals are. They need to know approximately how long they're going to last. They need to know the rules of being at the table. You can watch Blue Bloods to find out some of the rules that are appropriate. But you need, they need to know that what they're supposed to be doing when they're supposed to be doing it. The other thing is that, like Easy Daisies is a company that makes little helpful aids that help you make sure your child can do the getting ready for bed routine and also the getting up in the morning routine. They're little things with magnets on them, and when they've done each step, they move the magnet so they can tell where they are. That working memory thing we've talked about sometimes, which is just when you're keeping something in your mind that you just need to get the job done. You don't need to remember it forever. Well, ADHDers are lousy at that, and they keep forgetting where they are, what they did, what they're supposed to do. And with an Easy Daisy thing, they've got it right there in front of them, and they can just move the little magnet, and they're keeping track of things. So that's a wonderful, wonderful, and very simple thing We talk about that a lot when I'm talking about externalized executive functioning, which is just a fancy way of saying make don't make them try to hold it in their mind. Have it written down somewhere or on a thing on the wall or something that reminds them. Okay, we got to do some things with when they're getting overstimulated. You want to teach them problem solving skills. You know how to look at a thing objectively, not oh, I can't do that. But just okay, this is a problem. We're going to get it. We're going to get this done, and this is the way we're going to do it. We're going to see what needs to be done. We're going to try to figure out roughly how long that should take. If it's a big thing that we need to break down into parts, like we talked about with the report that need to be a paper for the teacher that needed to be done in 3 months. It's problem solving skills. You break it down, try to figure out what are some alternate solutions, what are some different things I could do, and then what happens if I do this? What happens if I do this? What happens if I do this? Until you come up with a plan. Okay, and that's a big deal. And one of the hardest things for a lot of us, depending on how you were raised, my dad was a drill sergeant in the Army, so I was raised a certain way, and which probably is illegal in a few states now. But we all survived because every other kid in the neighborhood also had a dad who was just out of the military. So the big deal though is with ADHDers. Remember, you got to always remember, it's a neurologic condition. It's a neurologic condition. It's not a behavior problem. It's not because he's being a little jerk. It's a neurologic condition, and we can look at the brain structurally. There are differences. We can look at it biochemically. There are differences, and not all of them are bad. One of them, there's a thing called the frontal thalamic striatal circuit, which is different in the ADHDers, primarily being that there are more connections to different parts of the brain. So they're processing way more information than a neurotypical brain, which is why we talk about ADHD as being not a problem with inattention, but a problem with too much attention. They're paying attention to everything. So the upshot of this being a neurologic condition is that punishment does not work well. Okay, you're dealing with somebody with depleted dopamine and serotonin. Those are the neurotransmitters. And if you praise, those levels go up. If you punish, those levels go down even more. So you get a kid who's already feeling bad, out of balance, body, things aren't the way they're supposed to be, and then you heap it on with some punishment, you're going to have some problems. Okay, you have made it more likely that you're going to have a temper tantrum right on the spot. Right now, you're going to have a big one. And so positive reinforcement is is a big deal. And teaching, everything is a teaching situation with these kiddos, or well, shoot, with any kid really, but it's more important with the ADHDers as you are in a situation. Okay, you came home from school and you were kind of angry. What was going on? What kind of things were happening today that made you think, that made you feel angry or frustrated? And that's an important thing too. What are you feeling? What's going on? Frustration, anger, those kind of things. They need to be able to be good at recognizing that because they need to be able to intervene early. Okay, most of us learn that sort of stuff spontaneously, although many people never learn that stuff, and they're always out of control and a victim of their emotions, sometimes destructively and, well, almost always destructively, but some the angry people get more attention because they do stuff that gets them into trouble. Whereas the people who have, take it out on themselves, the anxiety people and the depression people, they're not considered as big a deal, but it's the same idea. They can't separate um, their emotions or even identify them a lot of times. Um, and but when you're like that, you're losing control. You just stuff will happen and boom, you're thinking, oh, that car almost hit me, and so you have a panic attack. The car missed you. There's you can't do anything about it now. Might as well stay calm. The whole routine that you have to tell yourself, or most of us have to tell ourselves in that situation. So there's a whole bunch here, and it's but it's really important. Uh, you know, temper tantrums do some things that are hard to get over. So you have to stay calm. You have to let your kids use these things as ways of learning, and you've got to look at everything that happens as a learning experience, because they're going to have this their whole lives. They're going to have ADHD when they're 50. Okay, so they need to start learning how to deal with it. And guess what? You're the teacher. So um, it's really important that you develop that your knowledge and some of these different techniques that I was talking about today, which I'm thinking maybe I should do some stuff with that myself. We'll work on that a little bit. I'll think about that a little bit more. Okay, so this has been Dr. G's ADHD chat. I am Dr. Terry James Gingrass. My website is terrygingrassphd.com. You can go there. Right now, I have a sign up for um, evaluation for coaching potential. If we after 45 minutes or so feel like we can work together, that's been great. We'll talk about that. And coaching is real important for um, ADHDers, especially older ones. Like whoever in the family also has ADHD besides the kiddo, um, or even for parenting too. But I mean, the coaching typically is a long term thing, because ADHD is a long term thing, and something new or something different is always coming up. But anyway, so I have that as a sign up, and I'm going to be adding some other things as well. Um, I'm going to start a membership group pretty soon, and plan to have a sign up page with a bonus, couple of PDFs probably, um, for just signing up, and we'll keep that open for a while. It's going to be a week or so before that shows up. So there'll be another thing to sign up for, and I will do a little more focused uh, sort of marketing for that. Let you know what's coming and exactly what it's going to be like and all that sort of thing. But if you just know you want more, we can deal with you then too, without having to wait for all the other stuff. All right, I will see you next time, and do get in touch with me. Do email me. Do let me know if there are topics you'd like me to cover. If there are services you'd like to see me provide. I am. Uh, I have a lot of experience in a lot of things. Other than just ADHD, but that's the primary thing I'm starting to focus on um, in this internet world that I just have recently entered. Okay, catch you next week.